Hey everybody, glad you could make it. I don't have anybody in the classroom right now, but I do have several questions that have been asked. So I'm going to go ahead and record the questions, my answers to the questions, so that you could come back and watch this video later. And I'm sorry for the quality of the camera. It's not the best right now. So hopefully we can get that fixed later. But in the meantime, we're going to do the best we can. Okay. All right. So, one of the questions that I've had, and most of you have already started working with me individually, but for those of you that are new to our program, one of the big questions that everybody asks is how soon we can see results and what supplements we can use to help with candida. So I've linked below the supplements, but I'm also going to add another video from today that I did earlier that talks about those questions. It also talks about water and things, and I did that video in the free community, so I'm also going to provide that video for you here in the basics community, and then we'll answer some additional questions today in the basics community that we didn't cover in the free community. So there's a link below that links over to the video as well as to the supplements that you can use for candida. There's some links there and to full script. So that should take care of those questions. And then again, of course, you'll be able to watch the video from the free community if you're not already in there. All right. So I had a question about having a lot of complicated issues and if they could just do the gut health piece. And yes, the gut health piece is like the basic bottom line repair for almost every disease. Most of the time we need some kind of support while we're making those changes to our gut. Also, although the gut health is the most important starting point, there are a lot of other complicated things that play into health issues. So, for example, if you have high blood pressure, you might have an adrenal insufficiency. If you have diabetes, you might have some severe lifestyle changes needing to be taking place. Maybe, you have an addiction concern, cigarettes or something like that, and those will need to be addressed as well. So there's a lot of other, usually when there's complicated health issues, there are a lot of other things. You might have a weight problem, so we would have to address your weight. We would have to address managing a trauma that you might have experienced earlier in life. There are a lot of other complications that usually come into play. So yes, how gut health will help. That it's probably just the starting point for you, and more than likely we'll have to work further and do additional help than just doing gut health. If gut health was the only thing you needed to do, most people would be healthy because they would go out and try to do the gut health piece, and that would take care of it. And yes, in the long run, the gut health does help, but more than likely there's some other underlying causes. There are always more than one underlying cause when there are multiple health issues. Sometimes those underlying causes can be lifestyle, sometimes they can be a need to reset an adrenal response, or a fight or flight response due to trauma or long-term stress, any number of things like that. You might have an underlying subclinical autoimmune disease or disorder before it becomes a disease. There's a lot of possible issues that can come into play that can give you long-term health issues. And so those things are important to be able to identify as well, and need to also be given some attention, and some work needs to be done for those things. So it's not just about getting the gut healthy, but that is absolutely the starting place. And yes, you will notice an improvement, but it's not going to be the end and the only thing to do in order to get your health issues under control. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so I had somebody ask, what role does candida play in their health issues? And so I want to talk a little bit more about candida. The candida is not actually, in most cases, causing the health issue. It's just that the overgrowth of candida, because candida has a job and it's supposed to be in our body, but the overgrowth of candida actually begins to destroy the gut lining, the mucosal microbial lining. And when that happens, it's not the candida itself causing the issue until it becomes systemic. It's the lack of absorption. And so there's more to it than just get the candida under control. Yes, when we get the candida under control, it can keep us from having brain fog, and if it's systemic, it can keep us from having as much gut issue. It's not 100% repairing, and it can also help with keeping our microbiome more balanced. We won't have the cravings anymore for the sugars, but it is only the first step in getting our gut microbiome balanced, because just getting rid of the candida, it's like when you clean the house, and then if you never, it's not the only thing. You can't just clean the house. You can clean the house one time and never clean the house again, and dirt comes back in. You have to keep working on it. And in order to work on it, you have to have good bacteria. The good bacteria keeps the candida controlled so that it doesn't overtake you. So basically, you'd have to be on a candida diet for years and years and years, if you don't ever fix your gut. That, in part, is why the candida piece is so important to take care of, but it does play a role in how your body functions, because it's keeping your body from absorbing nutrients. So that's how it plays a role in your health issues. It's not actually creating a health issue as far as the candida itself overgrowing doesn't go, hurt you, but it can, because candida, our body's used to having candida. It's just part of what we have. But it can actually make a dysbiosis in many parts of the body, including the brain. And so you want to make sure that you've got a good balance and that your candida is under control, so that it doesn't contribute to the malabsorption. It doesn't contribute to the leaky gut that causes autoimmune. It doesn't contribute to the dysfunction of the adrenal glands because you're not converting amino acids. It doesn't contribute to leaky gut. It doesn't. So as you can see, it's a contributing factor rather than an actual big player. Now, with that said, an overgrowth of candida that's gone systemic can actually cause issues, because it's able to get in past the blood-brain barrier. And so we have to be really careful about overgrowth of candida. And so one of the things that I usually recommend is we take care of that first, and that we know the signs so that we don't have it again. I'm going to do a video later on some of the milestones and signs and that you need to watch for to know when candida is causing problems, when it's not, as well as milestones in your healing process, and so that you know what to look for at each step of the way. I have another question. How does gut health help autoimmune? So for those of you who haven't had a chance to look at the sensitivities video, when we have a stress response or candida overgrowth or something that's disrupting the microbiome, or a major immune issue like COVID or some major health event, the body goes into this really bad stress event, or a fight or flight response, an increase of allostatic load, which makes the body go into a stress response. When the body thinks that it is not safe, the vagus nerve is, the adrenals are functioning, your body goes into fight or flight. You might not mentally be in fight or flight, but you're physically in fight or flight. It doesn't know the difference between, oh, my mental is doing this or my physical is doing this. If the body is not getting enough nutrition, you're automatically going to go into this response. It's called a sympathetic response, and the body is saying, I'm not safe. So when the body says it's not safe, this response creates an immunity issue. Now, when your gut is not healthy and you go into this response, if this response continues, it's inflammatory. And a prolonged inflammatory response causes autoimmune, it causes heart problems, it causes gut issues, it causes microbiome depletion, it can cause just a ton of mental health problems. So the big issue for you to understand is that when the gut's not healthy, it's throwing your body into this extreme health crisis. And so everything in your body's affected. Your hormones, your cardiovascular system, all of your body is being affected because it's in an extreme crisis response. When you go into any type of extreme crisis response, the body will start to go into what's called automatic immune response or autoimmune response. Automatic antibody response is another way, or autoimmune. So your antibodies begin to be produced because obviously something is wrong or you wouldn't be in this inflamed state. And so it begins looking for any weak points or anything that it can attack to start fixing you. For example, if you have a back injury, it might decide that there's an injury in your spine and it begins to attack the connective tissues in the spine or give you ankylosing spondylitis. If you have a predisposition to skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, hives, it might take you down the road of lupus. If in my case, what happened with me was I had a predisposition for thyroid dysfunction in my family, and so it began to attack my thyroid. But before my thyroid got totally out of hand, I was able to reverse the effects of the auto antibodies. So that way I don't have autoimmune issues any longer. So when we get our gut healthy, the enteric nervous system and the vagal nervous system will stop creating the emergency response that it creates, and it will send the message, okay, everything is healthy, everything's good, let's go ahead and calm everything down. And then the vagus nerve steps in and starts the parasympathetic process, which is just a fancy word for it starts to calm down everything. It removes the inflammatory response, and it works really hard to bring everything down to a good, low, healthy balance. Our bodies are so dynamic and so wonderfully made that when something does get out of balance, everything else jumps in to keep us on our feet and to keep us moving. And so when that happens, that's what the autoimmune response is. It's a way to keep you healthy and keep you on your feet and keep you moving. Unfortunately, we don't pay attention to the signs and the signals early on, so we don't actually get an opportunity to, oh, this is what's happening. I know what I need to do, and we don't have an opportunity to reverse it, or we don't know what to do. And that's one of our biggest detriments here in Western medicine is that they don't know how to reverse it. There are many things that you need to do in order to reverse an autoimmune, not just say, okay, I'm going to change my diet. There's a lot more involved. But that is something that if you have an autoimmune, we probably need you to contact us and let me set you up with a private consult, and we can talk about options or even take you to the next level, which is where you're working with me directly. All right. So the next question How long do I need to take these supplements? Every single person is different. Typically, a moderately healthy person will be taking the Candida supplement is only 15 days period. We should not take it more than once a year. So you take that for 15 days. The probiotics we shouldn't take more than a year, and the J replenish probably about a year. Now, some people it's 9 months, some people it's a year, some people it's a little bit longer. We hope that if you are doing the probiotic, that by a year's time, you've learned how to do some homemade probiotics so that you're not hitting your body with the same strains over and over and over. And some of my videos, it talks about the strains and why and the importance of the different strains. You don't need to know what each strain does or how it works, because we don't even know. Science doesn't even know. But you do need to know how to ensure that there are other strains other than what comes in the probiotic that you're taking. Strains of probiotics, over 400 of them in our body and more than that in the world, that are healthful for you. And we should get as many of those strains as possible. So how long do I need to take the supplements? Rule of thumb, the gut rebuilding supplement for about a year. Again, some people may need to go longer, some people may not need to go as long. There will be another video that talks about how to identify when it's time to start weaning down from the supplements. And I'm actually going to do a video that talks about each step of the way, as I mentioned earlier. So that should be more helpful for you to know how long you need to take your supplements. And finally, people have asked how they can get more help. Above the settings button on your school platform, you can go in and select, and there should be a link there that says schedule appointment. And go ahead and click on that link, and you can schedule an appointment with me. And it's a 30-minute appointment. It runs about $250. Most of the information you can get in the videos in the classroom. But if you have a burning question that you just can't answer, if you can ask it in the general discussion, someone might have an answer for you. I might be able to come in and answer it for you if I have a minute. But more than likely, if it's more specific to a specific health issue, we probably need to have a private session. They run about $250, and it's for 30 minutes. And what I ask you to do is complete all of the information before coming in. Make sure that I have all that information before our meeting and enough time for me to ensure that I can utilize your 30 minutes the best, because I don't want to take up extra time trying to figure out what it is you need. So that's real important. There's some questions when you sign up for a slot, and we'd like you to go ahead and complete that before we meet up. Other than that, I didn't have any other questions. I was hoping that some people would show up, but we didn't. So we're going to keep this one a little bit short for our first one, and hopefully more people will come in with more questions, and we'll have more to answer at our next session. We'll see you back in about a month. And at that time, hopefully there'll be more people added, and they will have seen this, and we'll be able to have some participation in our live sessions. All right. Good journey in your health, and continue to work hard, and you're doing a great job.